All right, well, welcome to It's So Friday. It's the third week of January, and it's a rainy day here in Los Angeles, so we haven't been able to go outside and walk off all of our excess energy, which explains the juggling. But today we wanted to share how to make an infinity scarf. This is a super simple project we're going to do today using Carolyn Friedlander's new lawn collection. It's called Friedlander Lawn, and it comes in 12 exciting different colors. 3 different designs, and is available as a half-yard bundle as well as a really cute little fatty bundle that also mixes in some coordinating Cambridge solids. And we have some really wonderful patterns and projects up on our website that you can check out, as well as, you know, if lawn isn't really your thing and you just want quilting cotton, we have quilting cotton too. It's also called Friedlander. It's available in 25 different SKUs, 6 different designs, so a lot of good things to choose from, and that will be available in all different kinds of pre-cuts, from fat quarters, roll-ups, and charms to coordinating bundles of solids. Yeah. All right, so getting right into it, let's talk about what we're making today. We're going to make an infinity scarf. When it's really cold outside and you need a scarf and you want a really quick project, you forgot someone's birthday, you gotta go to work and give them a present, don't you want to have like a lot of scarves? So many scarves. So we are going to show you how to do this. First things first, you're going to download this free pattern from the Robert Kaufman website. It's called Infinity Scarf. You'll see Joyce here modeling it in the picture. That's how you'll know you're at the right project. All right, once you've downloaded your project and you take off your scarves, you'll see very quickly that this is a really easy project. You only need 2 yards of fabric, and probably the most difficult part about it is going to be cutting your fabric in half. So what you're going to need is a good sized cutting mat, a long ruler, and a rotary cutter, really loud, and a seam ripper in case you make some mistakes. So let's jump right into it. I have my 2-yard cut of fabric here, and I'm just going to show you. It is a really long 2 yards, and what we're going to want to do is cut it lengthwise right down the middle between the 2 yards. So if you are normal and don't have a huge cutting service that goes for 2 yards, which I don't either, we want to fold our fabric strategically so that we can cut it like that. So I'm going to fold selvage along the same selvage of the 2 yards. So the first fold will give me a 1-yard piece, and you want to do your best to keep those edges lined up at the top. And then I'm going to fold it again. So now I have a half-yard piece that's 4 layers of fabric thick. And after getting that as flat as can be, then I'm going to actually just make sure the other ends are matching too, and I'm going to lay it selvage to selvage. So now I have something that's 8 layers thick with all of my selvages together on this end, and I just lay it on my mat here, and this is the edge where everything's all folded together. And I'm going to take my ruler. This is not the only way you could do it, you could tear and stuff too, but this I find is just easier. And I'm just going to kind of lay my ruler down with a little more than 1/8 of an inch of the folded fabric out, and then I'm going to cut it all at once. Make sure that you press down really hard so that you cut through all your layers, and you'll see we have this 2-yard long little strip of fabric that's all waste. You could throw that away. And now what we have is 2 cuts that are 1/2 yard by 2 yards. So exciting. Okay, so you're gonna work with 1 piece at a time, and for the sake of your sanity, you should just try and keep this nicely folded. Otherwise you might accidentally sew it together. Just throw your trash away. All right, now long sides, we're gonna work with it lengthwise, and we're going to fold it right sides together, and then we're going to sew, oh, drat, the side still has a selvage and I didn't cut that off. So before I do this, I'm going to just repeat that process of folding it in half so that it's 1 yard and then a half again, so it's a half yard. And I'm going to cut off that selvage. You don't really have to if you want to use a big seam allowance or you don't mind it sticking through, but or showing through when you sew up your final scarf. But if you don't want to have that and you don't want to deal with it, then it's easy to just cut that off. And so after I fold it, I'm just going to go slightly in from the edge of the selvage and then snip that off. And now I have a really cute long selvage, and I would save that, and you could use it to tie your scarf up in a bow at the end and give it to a friend. Okay. Now these ends aren't straight either, and that's probably good to square up, but you kind of don't have to, but I'm going to. So here's the thing about this shawl. Scarf, not shawl. It's pretty forgiving. You want to try and maintain an accurate seam allowance, but as long as you're not going under a 1/4 inch, you're probably okay. I made like 4 of these earlier, and my seam allowance is kind of all over the place, but it's like a bulky shawl and you can't tell, so no one will know but you. Okay, the pattern says to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but when we're doing this on camera, it's kind of hard to maintain that, so I'm just going to sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And now you're going to do the longest seam in the world. It's a 2 yard seam. Maybe not in the world, but a pretty good long seam allowance. We're just going to take your time, make sure that you're feeding it carefully so that the edging on the bottom or between the 2 layers isn't kind of flipping up and making a little crease in your fabric. When I feed the fabric into the machine, I like to kind of keep my finger in between one of the layers, so I have a finger on the bottom, in the middle, and then on the top, so I can guide the fabric as I sew. And if you find that it's kind of going out of control, just stop mid-needle or with the needle down and reposition a bit, and then start going again. I'm stitching away here. We're like 1.5 yards, half a yard to go. Okay, almost there. Okay. And I forgot at the beginning, but when you get to the end, I would just back stitch a bit so that it doesn't come undone, and then clip your seam. Okay, so what you'll see here is that my top and bottom didn't line up evenly because I didn't cut it perfectly, and I think that's okay. So I'm just going to lay this flat, and then line my ruler up so that I get a straight cut, and I'm just going to cut that weird bit off. Trash. And this is the fun part. Okay, so now you have this long tube of fabric, and you're going to reach in like you're putting on a really, really long sleeve, and then you're going to grab the other end and then go whoosh. Sound effects are very important when you do this at home. Okay, and now you have a tube of fabric, right sides out. So at this point, you're going to pin this, or not pin this, but hold it right sides together and sew around and leave a gap for turning. And if your machine has the availability or the option to remove this part and have a free arm, that really helps it. So in this first one, we're just going to show it straight. We're going to match seam for seam. We're not going to do any kind of twists or anything fancy. And all I'm going to do is match the 2 seam lines up. You can see they're kind of right on top of each other. And then I'm going to sew around. Ooh, this is very tall. So I'm going to put one of the tubes into the arm here, and this is going to be really easy at first, but as you start to get closer to completing the loop, you'll see that it starts to get stuck and you'll have to pull that off of the arm. So remembering to go back and forth a bit at the beginning. And now we're just going to sew this together. All right, and here's it starting to get kind of tricky, so I'm going to swoop this off. And what'll happen is you'll know that you're at the end because you won't really be able to sew much further without potentially sewing the body of the scarf into the opening that you're trying to close, which doesn't make a very nice scarf, so you don't want to do that. All right, so I'm kind of there, and when I get there, I'm just going to go back a few stitches forward and then cut my thread. So what I'm looking at is this thing that kind of looks like this. It's a little messy. And all you have to do then is pull, and you have a scarf that's mostly joined, and you just have one small hole from where you turn. Now, If you have patience and time, you can definitely hand stitch this shut and it'll look totally seamless and you'll never know it was there. But if you're like me and you just want to finish it real quick, then what I would do is just pick a matching thread color to the outside and just zigzag that whole shut. I don't have matching thread, so I'm just going to zigzag it with white thread. So you'd be able to see it, but who's looking? Okay. Let's see. All right. So now this is all zigzag shut, and you can barely see it, and yeah, like it pops up a little bit, but you just put that side on your neck. And just like that, you have a scarf, not a shawl. So now that you have one finished, you can put your arm back, and you can actually just repeat the entire process again with your other half yard of fabric. So every 2 yards gives you 2 scarves. And next time that you do this, you can also, when you're putting the ends together into end, you can add a twist, which should make the infinity scarf have a little twist to it. But the problem with that is that when you try and fold it flat, it will never fold flat ever. It'll always have a twist in it. And, but yeah, so 2 yards of fabric and you get 2 scarves, which means 6 yards of fabric, you get 6 scarves. Look at all these scarves that we have here. This is just in a day's work, not even a day's work. That was so fast, wasn't it? Look at this. 1,
how many can you fit?
2,
1,
3, 4. I was going to have all these people come in and wear scarves for you, and all of them bailed on me, so I'm going to take all these scarves home. Look at all those scarves. See, and now you can just say that you're very cozy and you're not going to give anyone else a scarf. But you know how to make your own. They all know how to make their own. I'm going to make you Elle make this one later. It'll be really good. Well, thanks for joining us for Sew Friday. I hope that it's cozier somewhere else where you are.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.